Welcome, everyone. Thank you for joining us today. We are going to take a few minutes to let people join in, but in the meantime, please use the chat to introduce yourselves and let us know where you're joining us from today. All right. Hello, Gabriela, Sarah. Thank you for joining. All right. So, okay, we are going to go ahead and get started. Thank you very much, everyone, for joining for this Nice Future Initiative webinar, The World Nuclear Outlook, the Role of Nuclear in Meeting Energy Demand. So, before we get started, can you pass the slide, please? So before we get started, we are going to have some housekeeping rules for how do we use Zoom. This webinar is being recorded and will be shared after the session. You are automatically muted upon joining the webinar, but you may use the chat feature to add your inputs and the Q&A box to ask questions. If you have any technical issue, please message Sophie Schrader, and you may adjust your audio through your audio settings or find any dial-in information in your registration email. Finally, we'll be launching a survey when the webinar ends, and your feedback is very important to make sure that we are collecting your opinions to improve those sessions. So please provide your feedback to us at the end of today's webinars. All right. So next slide. So for our session today, I'll provide a quick introduction to our speakers before we hear a quick overview of the Nice Future Initiative from João. After that, we are going to hear from Damien Tornes. Then we are going to get an overview of the World Nuclear Outlook Report of 2026. Then an overview of emerging global nuclear energy trends, followed by a presentation on the role of advanced nuclear technologies in the energy mix. This will be supplemented by a presentation on how digital twins architecture is helping to accelerate advanced nuclear deployment. And our final speaker will be highlighting how the development of a nuclear energy workforce can support nuclear deployment. And then to close our session, we will have a brief panel discussions with our speakers today. So we are excited to have a mix of our speakers today. First of all, to introduce myself, I'm Alice Cunha da Silva, Vice President of the International Youth Nuclear Congress, our organization that has been a partner of Nice Future for a few years. And we are joined today by João Desai from the National Laboratory of the Rockies, as well as Damien Tornes from France Ministry of Economy, Finance, and Industrial Energy and Digital Sovereignty, King Lee of the World Nuclear Association, Dr. Henri Paillere of the International Atomic Energy Agency, Dr. Chandu Bolisetti of Idaho National Laboratory, Dr. Vineeth Gutta of NVIDIA, and Dr. Tamara Yankovich, from the Nuclear Energy Agency. And I'll be moderating the session for today. So to get us started, I'm happy to hand it over to Zhao Desai from National Laboratory of the Rockies, the operating agents of Nice Future Initiative, and he's going to introduce the Nice Future Initiative for us today. The floor is yours, Zhao.
Thank you, Alice. Next slide, please. And so I'll give a quick overview about Nice Future Initiative. So the Nice Future Initiative, the only nuclear initiative of SEM, leads the global conversation on the roles of nuclear energy can play in the energy systems of the future. Recognizing there is no one-size-fits-all solution to energy challenges, Nice Future together brings government, private sector, non-governmental partners to explore the role of advanced nuclear technologies in supporting reliable, affordable, and secure energy systems worldwide. The co-leads of this initiatives are Japan, US, and Canada, with several participating countries across Asia, Africa, and LAC, along with several external partners. And National Lab of the Rockies is the operating agent of this initiative. Next slide, please. The 5 thematic areas that Nice Future Initiative works on are messaging and communication, advanced reactor technologies, and integrated energy systems. The third pillar is economic modeling, finance, and regulatory, followed by non-electric applications and technical development and mentorship. So that's a high-level overview about Nice Future Initiative. And if you're interested in learning more, please subscribe to the channel. So over to you, Alice.
Thank you very much, Zhao. So to start this session, we are going to pass the floor to Damien Tornes. Damien is currently policy advisor on the International Nuclear Affairs within the Nuclear Industry Department and Directorate General for Energy and Climate, where he contributes to the governance and the international dimension of France's nuclear energy policy. He works in international affairs and cooperation with countries outside the European continent, and he's the French representative within the Nice Future Initiative. Damien, the floor is yours.
Yes, thank you, Alice, for this introduction, and thank you for giving me the floor and the occasion to speak today. So I will try to make a brief presentation of the priorities for France in nuclear energy. And first, I will try to share my screen. Sorry. Okay, got it. Can you see it?
Yes, it's just not in presentation mode as of right now.
Okay, yes, thank you. The
Yes.
presentation mode button was hidden. Okay, so for the French perspective for nuclear energy in France, maybe just a point of context. So in France, there are documents, the multi-annual energy plan, which gives the trajectory for energy production of the country and consumption. This plan has 3 main objectives. This is to fight against climate change, to ensure a security of supply, and to permit competitive and affordable energy prices for consumers. To reach these objectives, we have two big challenges. The first one is to reduce our energy consumption by improving energy efficiency. And the second one is to reduce our dependency to fossil fuels. In order to reduce our dependency to fossil fuel, France have a big objective to develop electricity by developing renewable energies and nuclear energy. In 2035, we want to reach an amount of 38% of electricity produced by nuclear. The orientation on the nuclear program in France have been set in 2022 by the President Emmanuel Macron, and they are to guarantee France's energy independence by phasing out fossil fuel. In March of 2026, a nuclear policy council held each year since 2022 confirmed the need for the revival of nuclear power generation in France in order to guarantee our sovereignty, to guarantee to make energy affordable for consumers, and also in order to guarantee and in order to improve our means to fight against climate change. The 10th of March of this year, France have also organized with IAEA the second nuclear energy summit in Paris. During this summit, our President Emmanuel Macron reaffirmed the ambition of France to develop nuclear energy. Our ambition on nuclear energy are materialized in 4 plans, 4 big programs. The first one is the new nuclear program, and its objective, its main goal is to build 6 new EPR2, that is to say 6 new pressurized water reactors, with an expectation to have the first commissioning reactor in 2038. These 6 reactors will be built by EDF, the French company, on electricity, and we expect a first FID in 2026. After the 6 first EPR2, we will study the possibility to construct 8 more EPR. A second part of our program on nuclear energy is the support of SMR. We are in the context of France 2030, a public support program. France launched a call for projects in 2023 in order to develop the industry of innovative nuclear reactors, and the goal is to support French startup in SMR. Third part of our program, the national strategy on back end of the fuel. The French industry is also represented by Orano, which have plans on conversion, enrichment, and also assets on mining extraction, and also on the back end of the fuel cycle. One of our objective, of our goal, is to reach the closure of the nuclear fuel cycle by 2100. In order to do that, Orano launched a program called Backend for the Future in 2 phases. The first phase involves the building by 2040 of 2 spent fuel storage facility for plutonium-bearing materials and a new plant for the manufacture of recycled fuel. The second phase involves the construction of a new plant for the reprocessing of spent fuel. And that's all for this part of the program. The last part is France offsets a national plan for radioactive materials and waste management, and works on the construction of a definitive storage for high level and radioactive waste. This project is managed with a large amount of public consultation. So because of these programs and the large ambition of France in terms of nuclear industry development, we will face many challenges that we will discuss today. In part of these challenges, I can quote the need for workforce, the need for fundings, the need for unavailable uranium supply, and also a need for a large public consultation. Thank you. That's all for my presentation.
Thank you very much, Damien. So moving forward with our presentations, I'm happy to introduce King Lee as our next speaker. King Lee is the head of policy and industry engagement at the World Nuclear Association, where he oversees efforts to promote the nuclear energy important role in the energy systems. Mr. Lee leads WNA working groups, which supports the nuclear industry to share, collaborate, and develop positions on a wide range of industry issues. So, King Lee, the floor is yours.
Hello, everyone, and thank you very much to the Nice Future Initiative for inviting me to contribute to the webinar. So I'm going to provide you with some of highlights of some recent work done by the World Nuclear Association on the global outlook for nuclear energy. The World Nuclear Association is the international organization that represents the global nuclear industry, and our mission is to facilitate the growth of nuclear sector by connecting players across the value chain. This slide shows that countries are increasingly looking to nuclear energy to meet climate and energy security goals. In COP28, we have 25 countries declaring tripling global nuclear capacity to address climate change. And last month, as already been mentioned by the previous speaker, IAEA at the IAEA Nuclear Energy Summit in Paris, more countries, including China, Brazil, Italy, and Belgium, joined the initiative. Now we have 38 countries which have signed up to the goal of at least tripling nuclear capacity by 2050. Next slide, please. The World Nuclear Association is working with and supporting the tripling nuclear country. So we have just launched a new report we will call the World Nuclear Outlook. It provides an in-depth analysis into the global nuclear energy system and provide some performance of the existing nuclear fleet, outline a range of nuclear reactor technology available for deployment and in development. And in particular, it reviewed national nuclear energy development based on announced nuclear government targets and goals, and include a summary of the global nuclear capacity to 2050. So I'll provide some highlight from this report. Next slide, please. Just starting from where we are, there's around 430 operable reactors around the world today, providing roughly about 400 gigawatts in 31 countries. And 76 reactors, 7.6 gigawatts currently under construction. And you note that this chart highlight that most of the growth in generation is predominantly in Asia, with the gradual return to service of the Japanese reactors, including in the data. Next slide, please. The other aspect to highlight is the high capacity factor achieved by the existing fleet, regardless of the age of the reactors. And this shows the case for the long-term operation of the existing fleet. Next slide, please. Now, looking forward into future development, we see a particular driver for nuclear development. This includes in recent times energy security concerns. This is including recent and the current energy crisis, highlighting the value of nuclear energy, providing national energy security with reliable and long-term electricity and energy supply. Also, we're seeing large energy users, whether they are hyperscalers and other energy users, in terms of both investing and driving the demand for nuclear energy. This provides, so go back to your previous slide, please. This slide provides a summary and the main results of the report. So we estimated that the global nuclear capacity could expand in 2050 if the continued operation of the existing global fleet of 400 reactors and the deployment of new nuclear mills built by government for the national capacity. So if all operable reactors and those reactors under construction and planned and proposed reactors are combined, then it could reach a total capacity of 1,446 gigawatts by 2050, surpassing the tripling nuclear capacity goal announced by government. So a large number of this fleet is, you will see, we've made the assumption that about 189 gigawatts will be operable from the existing fleet if we assume a 60 years lifetime operation. But if the assumptions that the existing fleet extend their life to 80 years, effectively over 400, nearly 400 gigawatts will still be in operation. Oh, next slide, please. I'll provide some more details of this analysis. The majority of the projected capacity for 2050 is from countries already having nuclear reactors, with an estimated 1,289 gigawatts. And these capacity alone will be sufficient to meet the tripling nuclear goal. And this capacity target for this from countries announced by country are predominantly just from 5 countries: China, France, India, Russian Federation, and US. From these 5 countries, we have a total capacity of nearly 1,000 gigawatts, so it's 980 gigawatts by in 2050. Next slide, please. And in fact, I just mentioned most of that is from these 5 countries of 980 gigawatts. So I'll provide some details of these new build from these major nuclear countries. Next slide, please. In US, there's wide bilateral support to increase nuclear in US, and obviously there are planned for long-term operation and life extension up to 80 years, and nuclear restart of reactors shut down, and also a recent target of 400 gigawatts by 2050. Next slide, please. China have 58 operable reactors, providing 60 gigawatts of nuclear capacity at the moment, and 30 reactors are currently under construction. With medium and long-term development plans for nuclear energy still under development, China Nuclear Energy Association anticipate China nuclear capacity to reach 110 gigawatts by 2030 and 150 gigawatts by 2035. Another study by the China Nuclear Power Development Center, a research institute under the Nuclear Energy Administration, say that China nuclear capacity could reach 330 gigawatts in 2050. Next slide, please. India currently have 24 operable reactors with a total capacity of nearly 8 gigawatts, and a further 6 units are currently under construction. However, India have committed to reaching net zero by 2070, and are part of this. The Nuclear Energy Mission have announced with the aim of reaching 100 gigawatts of nuclear capacity in the country by the centenary year of 2047. Next slide, please. This slide showed the both current fleet and anticipate new build for Russian Federation. Russia have 36 current operable reactors with a total capacity of 26.8 gigawatts, and 7 reactors are with a capacity of 5.3 gigawatts are currently under construction. And the proposed plan is that with a total capacity of 56.3 gigawatts by 2050. Next slide, please. This slide showed the data for France, and our previous speakers already indicated that the development of France planning to build 6 new EPR with the option of additional 8 reactors. Next slide, please. In addition to the countries that are already operating nuclear energy, we note that there are 20 countries, new entrant countries, that have announced declared nuclear energy targets. In addition, another 10 countries have expressed interest and are exploring the use of nuclear energy. Next slide, please. So if you look at these newcomer countries, their announced ambition for in total of nuclear capacity could reach 157 gigawatts by 2050. Next slide, please. Hopefully, just give you a quick overview of some of the results. The overall conclusion of this report mainly focus on the announced country targets, is that if government targets and the long-term operation of existing fleet were to maintain, nuclear capacity could exceed the global tripling nuclear target. And a copy of this report can be found at the World Nuclear Association website. We're currently working on the 2026 version, and with a focus of providing a tracking of the progress to deliver this government ambition. Thank you very much for your attention. Happy to answer any questions.
Thank you very much, King, for this great overview. And just to let everybody know, Holly was also able to share the link of the report into the chat. if you want to, if anybody hearing from King wants to take a look. So to pass to our next speaker is Dr. Henri Paillere. He's the head of the Planning and Economic Studies section at the International Atomic Energy Agency, where he leads the agency work on the economics and financing of nuclear power. His work leverages his expertise in nuclear energy research to support strategic planning and economic studies that inform global energy policies. So, Dr. Henri, the floor is yours.
Thank you, Elise. Let me share my presentation. So hopefully you can see it. So I will maybe share slightly different perspectives on the future of nuclear power, but with some very similar observations than the ones that King Lee just shared with us. If we look at nuclear power today, so we have 31 countries operating nuclear power with 415 nuclear reactors in operation and 72 under construction. That's from the IAEA PRIS database beginning of April this year. Nuclear represents a little less than 10% share in electricity, global electricity generation. That share has been going down for the last 20 years, unfortunately. But still, that nuclear power generation represents about a little less than a quarter of total electricity, low carbon electricity generation. So when we look at the future of nuclear power, it's good to also look at what is driving the demand for electricity. I think that's one of the title of this webinar. And I've borrowed this presentation, this slide from the International Energy Agency. We had a technical meeting last week here at the IAEA on nuclear and data centers and AI. And I found this slide very interesting because the drivers for electricity demand are really different across the major economies. If you look at China, for example, it's industry that's driving demand for electricity, the main demand for electricity. In India, it's cooling and other building applications. In the US, data centers are really driving electricity demand. And in the EU, it's more transport that's the #1 source of future electricity demand. So we can't have a global analysis of what's driving demand for electricity and the demand for nuclear power. So really it depends on national priorities and circumstances. But what we see is that security of supply is really an important driver for looking at nuclear power. Grid reliability and resilience, I would say these two drivers are linked to economic development. And then depending on national priorities, the need for decarbonization, so low carbon and sustainability attributes of nuclear power, the ability to help integrate large shares of renewables, intermittent renewables in the system while lowering the cost of the overall transition. Decarbonization beyond electricity when we're looking at the heat sector, for example, in industry. So these are all very important factors. And then in some countries that are looking at transitioning away from fossil fuels, and in particular coal, nuclear is an option. This is an argument we developed last year in a report for South Africa G20 on coal to nuclear. And of course, I mentioned the demand for clean electricity from data centers and AI. We had a symposium last year at the IAEA in December, and my section will be producing a report later in October on this important nexus between AI and nuclear. So now looking into the future, I mentioned 31 countries. Most of these countries are looking to expand or build new nuclear in their fleet. And as King mentioned, there are a number of embarking countries. We work with more than 40 countries at the IAEA under the milestone approach. And it's interesting also to see where these newcomer countries are. Basically, a large portion in Africa, a large portion in Asia, and then some newcomer countries in Latin America and the Caribbean, and also in Europe. So all this, the drivers for demand for nuclear power and the different regional policies that are the different policies that countries have leads us to a very optimistic increase in the amount of installed capacity. So these capacity we project every year. We have a publication called Energy, Electricity and Nuclear Power Estimates for the period up to 2050. In the last 5 years, we've seen this increased optimism in our high case. So we're not at the level of the tripling of nuclear power, and we're not yet seeing the very optimistic projections that WNA just shared. But we see a factor of 2.6 in our high case projections, and about a 50% increase compared to today in our low case projections. So what's important across these two cases is that long-term operation of the existing fleet, power upgrades of the existing reactors are important. What we're seeing in the high case is also not only a long-term operation, but also, of course, a very important new build effort, about 676 gigawatts of new capacity being brought in. And what's interesting is that SMRs would represent nearly a quarter of that additional capacity in the high case, much less in the low case. We're seeing anticipated growth in all regions of the world. In this publication, you don't have country data, you have regional projections, but underlying all these regional projections, we have, of course, analysis based on the different countries. I will share with you two examples of regional projections in Southeast Asia. Today, 0 capacity in operation, but we see up to 18 gigawatts of installed capacity by 2050. And just to name a few countries that are working with the IAEA under the milestone approach, so embarking countries, we have Indonesia, Malaysia, Singapore, Thailand, and also the Philippines and Vietnam that are different phases in the process. Africa is also very interesting. Africa has already nuclear power in operation in South Africa. Egypt is building also a large nuclear power plant, but we're seeing also a very large number of embarking countries in Africa, and possibly up to 30 gigawatts of installed nuclear by 2050, compared to a little less than 2 gigawatts today. And interestingly, we see that SMRs could play an important role in the increase of capacity in Africa. That's linked to the small sizes of the electricity grids that most of these countries have, but also maybe more limited ability to finance nuclear projects. And SMRs are a little more affordable than large reactors. So talking about financing, this is a major challenge for the deployment of nuclear in looking into the future, but there are good news and positive developments. Of course, governments that have played a major role up to today in nuclear programs around the world will continue to play an important role, but we see most of the investments coming from the private sector in the future. And for developing countries, multilateral development banks may soon play a role. The World Bank, the Asian Development Bank have changed their policy last year with respect to nuclear power, and they're looking at supporting a number of projects around the world, with a focus on, in the case of the World Bank, on long-term operation projects. These are low-risk projects compared to new build, but there's also very much an interest in advancing small modular reactors. So talking about small modular reactors, that's also one of the reasons why there is this renewed interest in nuclear power, because there's a much wider and attractive technical offer coming in the next few years. SMRs have a number of features, and Nice Future has been talking about SMRs for a number of years now. But I would just like to mention the recent interest in AI, in SMRs from data centers, AI, big tech companies, to power future data centers. And indeed, this is a driver. This is very much something that's happening in the US. We're not seeing it yet at the same level in other parts of the world. But big tech companies are investing in nuclear, investing in the restart of reactors. This is something that we didn't see coming a few years ago. Securing electricity from existing reactors through power purchase agreements, but also investing in new reactor technologies, in particular small modular reactors. So this is a very important trend. So the takeaways, we do not talk about a second nuclear renaissance. Maybe the first time wasn't such a lucky experience, but our Director General calls it a return to realism, a realism that we need nuclear and a renewables only transition might not work. There's a high level of interest from embarking countries, especially from emerging markets and developing economies. We've seen this increase in demand for clean electricity for different applications, the electrification of the economy, replacement of retiring coal plants, data centers, and beyond electricity to decarbonize industry through the supply of heat. So new technologies are going to play an important role going forward, perhaps a quarter of added capacity. That's quite a lot of SMRs when you look at what it means in terms of numbers. Financing is a challenge, remains a challenge, but we're seeing a lot of positive signs from the private sector and this shift in policies of multilateral development banks. But just to finish off, the role of governments will remain essential for nuclear program development, for policies, but also in terms of guarantees and so on. So with this, I finish, and happy to take questions later on as well. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Henri. So before we go to questions in the end of it, let's continue with our next speaker. So our next speaker is Dr. Chandu Bolisetti. He's a senior scientist at the Idaho National Laboratory with more than 15 years of nuclear industry experience, solving technical problems that enable economic, safe, massive, and rapid deployment of nuclear power plants in the US and across the world. He's an earthquake engineer by training, and he started his career in improving seismic safety of nuclear facilities with a goal of improving capital costs economics. He has since continued work on understanding nuclear cost drivers such as the civil construction and quality assurance, and identifying pathways to reduce costs and enabling massive deployment of large reactors and microreactors. So Dr. Chandu, the floor is yours.
Thank you, Alice. And thanks everyone for this opportunity to serve on this panel. and talk about something that I'm quite passionate about, which is the future of nuclear energy. So I'm from the Idaho National Lab, which is the DOE's prime national lab for commercial civilian nuclear power applications. So my presentation is going to be kind of US focused, so please excuse that if you don't mind. So we are in a nuclear renaissance. Is it a second renaissance, third renaissance? I don't know. But this renaissance is different from the previous ones, like Henri was mentioning. And why? Because in the US, there is unprecedented bipartisan support for nuclear. This is kind of sad to say, but this is probably one of the only things that has bipartisan support in the country at the moment. So starting from the Biden administration, who passed the ADVANCE Act that credits nuclear for that tries to credit nuclear and improve nuclear regulation. And also, what I'm showing here is the 4 executive orders that President Trump has signed when he first took office. And these executive orders actually span all the way from keeping the current plants open, operating the current plants, reforming nuclear reactor testing, and spurring innovation and change how we test reactors and DOE sites. And also addressing the fact that nuclear plays a big role in national security, which is spurring defense investment in nuclear as well. And finally, also removing redundancies in regulation and improve how we regulate and license nuclear reactors. So if we look at the next generation of nuclear power plants, this is not just in the US, across the world. There is a lot of diversity in size and technologies. So historically, it's been mostly large reactors that are in hundreds or thousands of acres of land and produce 1 gigawatt of electricity. In the future, we are looking at, I guess, more of small modular reactors and micro-reactor technologies. So small modular reactors are, say, if you define them by size, somewhere between tens of megawatts to low hundreds of megawatts. And then micro-reactors these are for specialized applications that hopefully take less than an acre and produce about low tens of megawatts. So the common thing in all these reactors, in small modular and micro reactors, is that they are meant for modular fabrication and assembly. So basically, we want nuclear to be a product rather than a project. Something that can be delivered with cost and schedule certainty. They're also being designed with a lot of passive safety, which I'm going to talk about shortly. But another thing to remember here is that historically, nuclear has only produced electricity at a large grid scale. The diversity in sizes and technologies actually also enables diversity in applications. So we can get more customers benefiting from nuclear energy as a result of this. So talking about the technologies themselves, we call this the next generation advanced Gen 4 concepts, whatever, but a lot of these concepts are from the 50s and 60s. Some of these have been demonstrated in the US and across the world, but they're coming back. So there is some data on them, but they are coming back and they are being demonstrated right now in the United States. So the first one is a high temperature gas reactor. Basically, you have all of these reactors are based on something called TRISO fuel, which you may have heard about this, but this fuel does not melt. You're basically protected by physics. So and they're slightly lower pressures than the current plants, but they also operate at very high temperatures with a helium coolant. So you can also operate them at a thermal or a fast spectrum. Secondly, liquid metal fast reactors. These are, you have metallic or oxide fuel. You have liquid metal like sodium or sodium potassium combination, or lead sometimes. These operate at an atmospheric pressure, and they're also much higher temperatures than the current nuclear fleet, and they typically operate at a fast nuclear spectrum. And finally, molten salt reactors. This is actually a concept where the coolant is actually molten salt, and the fuel is dissolved in the coolant. And therefore, you don't need to shut it down for refueling. You can just keep adding fuel as you go, and then you can keep the reactor going for long periods of time. They also operate at atmospheric pressure, which is a huge benefit because you don't have to deal with pressure release accidents and so on. And you can also operate these at thermal or fast spectrum. So these are actually, molten salt reactors are actually at the lowest technology readiness level. So there is a little farther to go for this technology. So what are the benefits of these of all these new technologies? The first one is that they're all trying to not use water as a coolant. So they are less resource intensive, both in terms of land and water. As I mentioned, they are all based on modular factory construction. In fact, even the gigawatt plant that the United States offers, AP1000, is also a modular. I like to call it a large modular reactor because it is also a modular factory constructed reactor. So, and then passive and inherent safety features, for example, like TRISO fuel that doesn't melt, and basically the idea is to have physical limits in that don't let your fuel or core damage under accident conditions. The higher operating temperatures is actually a big advantage because you have both improved efficiency, and you can also use other applications for industrial heat, high quality steam, and so on. Some of them have higher energy density, so they'll be more compact. And also there is a lot of fuel flexibility that could improve how you recycle the fuel and the back end of the supply chain. So there are many applications beyond electricity when we keep the new technologies in mind. The first one is industrial heat. So, for instance, Dow Chemical is working on a plant with a company called X Energy, which is a high temperature gas reactor, and they're going to use steam from this high temperature gas reactor for their chemical processes. Similarly, there are several other applications for nuclear, like I'm showing on the right, from petroleum refining, from chemicals, all the way to desalination and carbon capture, carbon conversion, and other areas. The idea that is coming out of this is an idea of energy parks where nuclear generators, generators of other kinds of electricity like renewables, and also customers like chemical plants or data centers or whatever, they can all be co-located without the need for connecting the plant to the grid. So that's an idea that is becoming more and more feasible. And also the diversity in sizes actually align SMRs for a range of applications. And one last thing I want to mention here is that maritime applications is also another big application beyond electricity. People are considering nuclear power plant, nuclear energy for shipping, which is a big contributor to global carbon emissions. So what does the future look like? This is again kind of specific to the United States. There are executive orders for this decade, from now to 2030. I think the focus is going to be on maintaining and upgrading the existing fleet. In the last few weeks, Diablo Canyon power plant in California got a license extension. And there are many examples, if you go back to the last couple of years, of plants being restarted, like Constellation and so on. And then we are also going to start building new AP1000s. We are waiting in anticipation with eagerness to see announcements of new AP1000s being constructed. The executive order, one of the executive orders actually talks about having 10 gigawatts of new AP1000s under construction before 2030. Next, as we speak, we are working on demonstration of Gen 4 technologies and microreactors. By early 2030s, we'll see some advanced SMRs online, and before that, we will actually see microreactors. Hopefully, this year, this summer, we will see some microreactors being demonstrated at Idaho National Lab and other sites. So. From the 2030s and 2040s all the way to 2050, the goal here is to quadruple nuclear, which is a pretty lofty goal. It's very steep goal, but I think we should be ambitious and we should be aiming high. But there are challenges there, and the biggest challenge, as everyone knows, is cost. Nuclear is expensive. And I think it's expensive because we haven't built plants as regularly as, say, China or India. And when you look at those countries, they have reduced costs, and nuclear is quite affordable there. And so we need to, in the US, we need to improve project delivery. We need to improve how we build these plants and reduce costs in the next couple of decades. Finally, I want to leave the audience with a little bit of anticipation, a positive anticipation for what's to come. This is a slide that's showing all the different demonstration projects that are currently going on. And this is only a subset of all the demonstration projects that are actually happening. Tomorrow there is a grand opening of the Dome facility at INL, where we are going to test, it's a test facility for microreactors. So Radiant is the first company that is going to demonstrate their high temperature gas reactor, microreactor that is transportable this summer. And there are many other demonstration projects and that are going to happen in the next few years. So it's a pretty exciting few years, I would say, for advanced nuclear. With that, I'll end my statements and happy to take questions later. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Dr. Chandu. Very exciting. So with that, I'll hand over to our next speaker, Dr. Vineeth Gutta. He's a solutions architect at NVIDIA, where he helps national labs in the US advance innovation using accelerated computing platforms. He holds a PhD from the University of Delaware, where he focused on machine learning and high-performance computing applications. So Dr. Chandu, the floor is yours.
Thanks, Alice. Hey, everyone. I hope you can see my screen.
Yep.
So I'm Vineeth Gutta. I'm a solutions architect at NVIDIA. And today I'll be talking about what NVIDIA is doing to power the nuclear renaissance and how our computing platforms and ecosystem can help transform nuclear technology development. So you might be wondering why a chip company would be interested in nuclear. To set the stage, I'd like to start with this slide, which gives there's a lot going on here, but broadly speaking, this shows the platforms that NVIDIA builds. At the base of that are the chips, right? But that's not everything. There's also the superpods and the servers that are built and compose of these chips and all the switches and all the hardware. But more importantly, the less well-known aspects of NVIDIA are what sits on top of the hardware, the software ecosystem, and the rich set of libraries that can be used for various applications. And one of those is Omniverse, which lends itself well to digital twins. So to again give a broad overview, NVIDIA as a company thinks about our ecosystem and our set of challenges in the 5-layer cake. And the foundation of that, as you can see, is energy. So we see that energy is a key aspect of a lot of the work that we're doing. And it belies chips, infrastructure, models, and even applications. And a lot of these applications are used in various domains in various areas in science, engineering, technology to advance many things, as you can see and as we're all using every day. As part of that, NVIDIA is now partnering with Idaho National Lab and DOE broadly, Department of Energy broadly, as part of the Genesis mission. And to set some background, Genesis mission is the new executive order that came out in November to advance science and engineering across the US as part of DOE's mission. And Prometheus is specifically focused on accelerating nuclear energy deployment through various ways and reducing the time to solution. And as part of that, the US has a goal of reaching 400 gigawatts of nuclear capacity in 2050. And also as part of that, DOE is partnering with the private sector, including NVIDIA and a few of the startups that Dr. Chandu showed earlier. So, and one of the work that we're doing with Idaho National Lab is on the DOME facility, which is the demonstration of micro reactor experiments testbed. What you're seeing on the left is a visualization of this facility. In this case, it's just visualizing radiation of heat in the facility. This required bringing various physical assets into the Omniverse platform. That's the NVIDIA Omniverse platform to visualize what's going on there. So what you're seeing here is the various aspects of the facility and combined with the visualization of some simulation code that's running in conjunction with that. In addition to just facility digital twins, what you're seeing here is a visualization of a digital twin of the D3D fusion facility, tokamak, at the D3D National Fusion Facility. This is work that's done in conjunction with General Atomics. And what you're seeing here is the fusion tokamak. So why do we need digital twins? So essentially, digital twins allow you to not only visualize, but also represent and run complex simulations in the virtual world before you can understand what you can expect in the physical world. A true digital twin would couple the physical asset with the virtual asset and have this closed loop ecosystem where information from the physical world and the virtual world passes both ways to optimize. And this can be used in various ways, including to optimize reactor designs, to accelerate scientific discovery as you run various experiments, to improve reactor operations and maintenance, even post deployment, etc. Sorry. So visualization is just one aspect of a digital twin. The other aspect of digital twins are the AI models. So the main challenge with digital twins is that a lot of the simulation code that's used to validate a lot of the experiments and simulations run on the order of hours or days. But that's not enough when we're using digital twins, because digital twins are only effective when you run them in near real time. So the idea is to run the simulation to generate a lot of data and then use that data to train AI surrogates, which essentially approximate the simulation. And the advantage with AI surrogates is that they run much faster, and they can produce the same output much faster. As you can see, in many cases, we see 6 order of magnitude faster. But but all of this is very computationally intensive, and this is again where NVIDIA plays a key role, where running the simulations on HPC systems at scale to produce the data and eventually to use that data to train these AI models for using them in the digital twins, as the examples that I showed earlier. And you can do complex things like modeling the boundaries of the plasma, or the energy inside the reactor, or also CFD simulations, like how heat or liquids can be moved. So NVIDIA Omniverse is the platform that can bring this visualization and AI physics and a few other things together under one platform to integrate all of this to run complex workflows and run complex digital twins for various use cases, including for in various nuclear applications. So digital twins require more than just Omniverse. It also requires an AI platform. And this is where NVIDIA is in a good place to collaborate with DOE to facilitate this faster transition to nuclear energy and deployment. So one example, there's a rich set of libraries that are built on top of the CUDA ecosystem that engineers and scientists can use for various use cases. One example is cuOpt that you see here, that is being used by Idaho National Lab to optimize the design of pipes in the facilities, like the dome facility. And there's also the PhysicsNeMo ecosystem that has various models that were built in various industries, like automotive or space applications, that do complex CFD models that can in turn be also used in applications such as heat dissipation and heat radiation in nuclear applications, in addition to atomic physics. So again, this rich ecosystem of software and hardware platforms that NVIDIA is building allows various key players in the nuclear industry to use this ecosystem to accelerate discovery and science and engineering. With that, I'll take any questions.
Thank you so much, Vineeth. That was very interesting. So before we go to the panel session, where we have some questions to ask each one of our speakers, we are going to go to our final speaker, last but definitely not least, Dr. Tamara Yankovich. She's the Deputy Head of Human Aspects of Nuclear Safety at the Nuclear Energy Agency, where she works with countries to establish strength and implement regulations to protect people and the environment. She brings more than 30 years of practical nuclear experience to her work, supporting nuclear decision-making. So Dr. Tamara, the floor is yours.
Okay, just leave me one moment here and I will pull it up. We my screen here. All right. All right, can you see that? Okay. So thank you so much. It is a great pleasure for me to round up this group of esteemed speakers to talk a little bit about workforce development to meet current and future needs in the nuclear sector. So first of all, I thought I would start with the need, and I know that there have been a lot of really insightful presentations already on this, but basically just to highlight a few key points, there are still very many people in the world who lack access to electricity. So more than 660 million people, many of which are in sub-Saharan Africa. We know that there have been now 38 countries that have committed to tripling nuclear, and in some cases quadrupling nuclear by 2050. And then we know that there is significant buy-in by nuclear industry companies. We heard already today that that funding is going to be coming mainly now from the industrial private sector, and there's also financial institutions coming on board to support the goal. So I guess the question is, how do we connect the supply for electricity with the commitment to supply it? And I think that there's a lot of scientific reasons and aspects to it, but there's also a lot of human policy reasons for this. And I think it's important to think about these things to try to figure out how to bring these things together. So in terms of nuclear energy, I think that I'm talking to, to others that think the same thing, that nuclear power is considered a viable source of electricity and is a key part of the energy mix in many countries. It ensures energy security and meeting commitments of countries. There's many nuclear power plants that are currently operated, more than 440 or approximately 440 according to 40 Nuclear, but I'm sure that Henri will have more, or will have additional numbers to share on this regard, and they produce almost 397 gigawatt of electricity in 31 countries. And then there's more than 70, I think 72, I heard today, additional reactors currently under construction, which are going to add more electricity to the current amount. So let me just, So what is the challenge? Well, there are a number of challenges, but one of the key challenges is the workforce. So we know that all over the world, there's been nuclear renaissances, there's been coming back to realities. And as a result, the education systems, the training systems have changed and fluctuated over time as policies have changed, as different things have occurred in the world. And there's an aging nuclear workforce with pending retirements, for example, in North America, Europe, and across different countries. There's shortages of skills that are needed to deploy nuclear new builds and SMRs globally, microreactors, as well as floating reactors, as the case may be, and a corresponding high demand for specialized skills, for example, reactor operations, nuclear safety, decommissioning, skill sets all across the board. This has led to the understanding that we need to recruit and train younger engineers and technicians, and we also need, in parallel, to attract experts from other sectors. We need to cross-cut the skill sets and attract also people from other parts of the nuclear sector to produce a flexible and adaptable workforce that can meet multiple needs as the sector continues to advance. This also goes hand in hand with this is the need for training and education. So there needs to be education programs, hands-on apprenticeships, as well as international collaboration as key enablers to maintain a skilled workforce, and in some cases develop it, that is capable of supporting existing and new nuclear infrastructure. And there's also a need for diverse skill sets. It's a highly technical sector, although there's room for everyone. It needs everything from STEM to non-STEM in a diversity of different fields. And these are needed because of the diverse jobs and the need to keep advancing innovation. There's a need to attract postgraduates as well as to attract trades and to get to engage with people from other places to join the sector. So, for example, here's a graph that that is from the U.S. and it basically shows what the the ability to attract people to the nuclear sector by different industries. And you can see that in many cases across a diversity of different parts of different industries across the sector, that there is quite a challenge in terms of getting people to come into the sector. And so we need to think about why that is. We can also see that in a number of cases, there's shortage of the hands-on trade. So how do we get people from the non-nuclear trades to become more nuclearized so that they can join and learn this customized skills? There's also another thing that exacerbates these challenges is the relationship between the nuclear workforce and the supply chain. So worker availability is a key constraint on the ability to deliver new nuclear projects or to build new nuclear program or products, as was said earlier today, at scale. And this workforce is critical, for example, across the lifetime of nuclear facilities and activities. So design, manufacturing, construction, operation, maintenance, also decommissioning, waste management, some of the softer skills, law, legal, regulatory, policy, and strategy. And this is needed. A qualified workforce is really key to ensuring that the supply chain maintains the quality and safety requirements that are needed to ensure a robust and safe sector, because we know that when something happens in one nuclear power plant, it happens in all of them across the world. So we need to maintain our vigilance. And this also, maintaining a robust nuclear workforce avoids supply chain bottlenecks, which then affect the economy, they affect the time, they affect the viability of meeting the needs so that we can deliver on like in a timely manner. Current workforce worker shortages go across the board, and the other aspect that is important to think about is what's been called by some a chicken and an egg, where the supply versus there can be a market impasse due to differences due to hesitancy by suppliers versus customers. So the suppliers might be hesitant to expand capacity and develop supply chain without demand, whereas the customers may be hesitant to place orders without the established supply chain in place. And of course, the bloodstream of the supply chain will be also the workers. And so this can create an issue that needs to be overcome. So with all of this said, a key question then becomes, again, how do we bridge the gap between the supply and the demand? And basically, something that, one thing that is key is that we need to look at what the workforce is looking for to gain what they need out of a career so that they can become excited and passionate and committed to what they're doing. We need to attract people. We need to explain to them why it's exciting and to empower them to think for themselves about what they can contribute. We need to retain them by creating exciting jobs within what we need to do, of course, so that they want to stay there and they don't want to go anywhere else. And then they need to see the career advancement so that they can continue to add progressive impact and positive outcomes in the sector. So we need to foster engagement. One way to do it is to foster engagement between current nuclear leaders and future nuclear leaders to transfer knowledge and ignite their imagination to address key global questions now and into the future. We need to co-create our common nuclear future. So this leads me to an initiative that is just had its inaugural event in Australia last August, and it is the Nuclear Futures event where we were shaping nuclear dialogue in the nuclear sector. And the aim was to bring together seasoned industry leaders with future leaders so that we could pave careers to address society's key global questions in a changing world. We created the opportunity between employers and potential employees, and it's led to some employment opportunities already, new businesses and other positive outcomes, people entering the nuclear sector that weren't otherwise thinking so. And so it was a very good start. The other aspect that's quite interesting is that this event is customized for the host, in this case, Australia, but we will be having a coming event in Southeast Asia, which I'll mention in a moment, and that will be a regional event. But in terms of the impact, what we did was we asked early career professionals, which could include young people or people from other sectors that are thinking of entering the nuclear sector, just to identify what they think is a key global question and why. And then following a conference set of panels with really high-level speakers and engagement and discussion, we then set up mentoring sessions where they could answer their own questions so that it could empower them to think of and visualize themselves in the sector. At the event, there are more than 250 participants at the conference from 31 countries, 65 mentees, plus 20 mentors who are current global leaders, and there's work going on to co-write the report. Now we're planning the Nuclear Futures in Southeast Asia, which will be 29th of June to the 3rd of July, on fostering nuclear dialogue in Southeast Asia with special focus on island countries, island states. So that adds a bit of interest to the mix. You will see here that we will have that we're working in partnership with the Nice Future workshop, or Nice Future, with a workshop wrapping up the event, and then before that, site visits, conference and mentoring workshop, and we'll be focused on nuclear and society, nuclear energy for islands, energy and nuclear preparedness and response, and then also non-power applications, which are important to the region, nuclear medicine and agriculture, wrapped up with the envelope of building human capacity and also strengthening supply chain. So now that I went through that, I'd just like to circle back, and I talked a bit about some of the needs, which a number of you have already gone through in detail, and I talked about the challenges. And what I would argue is that the needs and the challenges really present the opportunity. By building robust, sustainable nuclear workforce and supply chain, we can increase access to sustainable electricity and energy security that meets societal needs. We can increase employment, create stronger skill sets, more robust supply chains, and stronger economies now and in the future. And with that, I thank you for your attention, and I pass the floor back to our moderator. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Dr. Tamara. So first of all, I want to thank all of our speakers for this great presentation and very important insights. I think what we heard is across global outlooks, nuclear energy is entering this phase of accelerated expansion driven by energy security, driven by data centers and system reliability. We saw today projections from King Lee and Dr. Henri regarding strong growth scenarios that still rely heavily on large reactors, but also integrating SMRs and microreactors and advanced applications, as well as we heard on the strategies from the French government and everything that is being done on the data and AI and with digital twins and so on from NVIDIA that were also brought, and all the work that Idaho National Lab is doing to support the advance of those technologies as well. And in all of that, we also heard that we are welcome new players in this sector that were outside of the traditional nuclear ecosystem, and leveraging AI to drive innovations and shorten timelines and reduce risk. So I just want to make given our time constraint, one big questions to all of our speakers here, that giving all those opportunities and constraints, what are the most critical actions being on industry or workforce development or technology partners and everything that we need to prioritize in the next few years, 10 years, to scale this nuclear capacity fast and cost effectively, while maintaining the system reliability and delivering flexibility that of uses beyond electricity, like we talked today, and ensuring that we have workforce, institutions, and innovation ecosystems that are needed to sustain this long term. So just a brief closing remarks with that in mind from each one of our speakers before we wrap up our session. Maybe we can restart with you, Dr. Tamara, since you just gave your remarks about workforce development.
Sure. I guess what I'd like to say is we need to make sure that we don't forget the human face of nuclear. We need to engage intergenerational dialogue so that we can pass information back and forth, and we need to foster excitement, passion, and commitment, which will power what we need to do in a timely and scalable manner. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Kingsley, maybe you can go next.
Thank you. I think from our analysis, it showed the government ambition for nuclear. Okay, so there are sufficient policy support that need to be maintained. The main focus is delivery. Countries are delivering well, predictable at cost, while in other regions, we need to rebuild our supply chain and make sure that we go down the cost curve. We have done that previously. We know how to do that, but it's really essential that we do that. That's including skill and workforce, but we need projects and the program of projects to go down that curve, develop that capability and capacity and go down that cost curve.
Thank you very much. Yeah, thank you. So maybe we can go next to Damien from a French government perspective.
Yes, thank you. Yeah, so the French government, of course, observes the momentum in nuclear worldwide, and we, apart from our own ambition, we encourage more countries to engage in nuclear energy. And generally, we are in favor of a multilateral development and discussion that we can have on nuclear energy.
All right. Thank you. Thank you very much. Dr. Henri?
I mean, there are multiple challenges, but I will join King in saying we really need to see the industry deliver on time and on budget, and then a lot of the challenges that we have currently will be, I would say, less unsurmountable. Financing would be easier if we have more predictability on the cost of nuclear projects. But the readiness of the workforce as well is a crucial point if we're to see the anticipated expansion of nuclear power. We need people, we need good people, and I think Nice Future is a good initiative also to sustain this enthusiasm and attract interest in nuclear power among younger generations.
Great. Thank you very much. And Dr. Chandu?
Yeah, I mainly would like to echo the other speakers. From our perspective, there is a lot of excitement, there is a lot of optimism, there is a lot of support in the United States and across the world for nuclear, and there's recognition that nuclear is a legitimate contributor to the global energy demand. But then there are also challenges, and we should not, we should take advantage of this new renaissance. I don't think it's going to happen again. If we fail this time, we won't have another renaissance. I don't think so. But so, and the challenge is cost and supply chain and workforce. And as others have mentioned, these are not insurmountable problems. We have done this before, we can do it again. And we just have to do it as soon as we can.
Thank you. And Vineeth?
Yeah, adding to what all the other wonderful speakers mentioned, I would say that there's a lot of aspects to nuclear energy that can be accelerated, and I think the industry and policymakers having an open mind about how the key advances in technologies can speed up various aspects of nuclear energy, from engineering, science, regulatory, all of that can be a key unlock.
All right. Right, so I appreciate that. So what I heard was we must deliver. Let's work on financing costs, and don't forget the opportunities to leverage technology for accelerating those the deployment. And don't forget that there is phase to it. So the human aspect and workforce development is extremely important that we continue investing on this. So thank you so much again to our great speakers today for joining us and providing your insights. It's great to hear how much is going on in nuclear growing role in meeting the energy demand. And thank you everyone for joining us today in this session. Please join us for the next Nice Future Initiative webinar, which is going to be about SMRs and microreactors, the critical considerations for deployment. Registration information will be sent out soon, so please keep an eye on it. And with that, I'm happy to conclude today's sessions. Thank you so much for joining us, and we'll see you in the next one.
Thank you, everyone.
Have a great day, everyone.
Thank you.
Thank you.